The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, carried by a Galactic Council courier ship that looked like a silver teardrop against Earth's blue sky. Ambassador Giwon Kim stood at the window of the United Nations building, watching the alien vessel land with the grace of a falling leaf. She knew before opening the sealed container that this would not be good news. The holographic display cast an eerie blue light across the emergency meeting room. 12 humans sat around the polished table, their faces growing paler with each word of the Council's final report. Dr. Minho Park, thin man with kind eyes, was the first to break the silence that followed. 47 cycles, he said quietly. That's what they're giving us. 47 cycles until everything ends. Captain Sora Lee shifted in her military uniform. She had fought in 3 colonial wars and had never seen fear like this. These devourers, she said. What exactly are they? Juan touched the control panel, and images filled the air above the table. Dead worlds, twisted metal, empty space where star systems used to be. They consume everything. Planets, moons, even stars. They take the matter and energy and use it to grow stronger. How long have they been doing this? Asked Han, the military strategist. The oldest records show attacks from over 10,000 years ago, maybe longer. They move slowly, but they never stop. And they never leave anything behind. The room fell silent again. Outside, the sounds of Earth continued. Traffic hummed, people laughed, children played in parks. None of them knew that their entire species had just been handed a death sentence. Dr. Yuna Choi, the youngest person at the table, leaned forward. Has anyone ever fought them? Really fought them, I mean? Every major civilization has tried it. Some point, Jiwan replied. The Corvellans threw their entire fleet at them 500 years ago. The Zephyrians tried to negotiate. The Thraxians attempted to hide their worlds using advanced technology, and they're all gone now. Sora stood up and began pacing. So the entire galaxy is just giving up? They're going to sit there and wait to die? The Council believes resistance is pointless. They're focusing on preservation projects, cultural records, genetic samples, that sort of thing. They want to leave something behind for whoever comes after? Hyon's voice cracked slightly. Who comes after if they consume everything? Guan shrugged. Maybe no one. Maybe the universe just starts over. Dr. Park pulled up his own display, showing star charts with red zones marking devourer territory. Look at this pattern. They're not random. They're systematic. They clear out entire sectors before moving on to the next. Which gives us time, Sora said. Time to do what? Run? Hide? The Council already told us that doesn't work. Time to think, said a new voice. Everyone turned to look at Commander Doyon Chang, who had been silent until now. He was older than the others, his gray hair and weathered face, speaking of decades in space. Time to ask the questions no one else is asking. What kind of questions, Juan asked. Simple ones. How do they work? Hey, what do they need? Where do they come from? He stood up slowly. Everyone keeps talking about how unstoppable they are, but no one seems to have studied them properly. Dr. Choi nodded eagerly. He's right. All the Council data is just damage reports and casualty figures. There's no real analysis of how they function, because everyone who gets close enough to study them dies, Yoon pointed out. Not everyone, Chang said. The attack on Proxima Colony last year, 3 ships got away. They had sensor data, debris, samples, even some recorded communications. The Council said the communications were just noise, Juan said. Did they try to decode it as language, or did they just assume it was meaningless? The room began to buzz with new energy. For the first time since the meeting began, people were leaning forward instead of sinking back in their chairs. Are you suggesting? Sora asked. Chang walked to the window and looked out at the alien courier ship. I'm suggesting we do what humans always do when faced with the impossible. We roll up our sleeves and get to work. The Council will never approve. Additional research, Juan warned. Then we don't ask for approval. Chang turned back to the group. We have 47 cycles. That's more time than humanity has existed as a spacefaring species. If we can't figure out how to kill these things in 47 cycles, then maybe. We deserve to die. Dr. Park smiled for the first time that day. You know they'll call us crazy. Let them. Chang replied. They can call us crazy right up until the moment we prove them wrong. The meeting continued for 6 more hours. By the end, they had the skeleton of a plan. It was ambitious, dangerous, and probably impossible. But it was also the first plan anyone had made that didn't involve giving up. As the participants filed out, carrying classified folders and grim determination, none of them noticed the small smile on Ambassador Kim's face. She had been worried about how to tell her people they were going to die. Instead, she had just watched them decide to live. 6 months had passed since the emergency meeting, and Earth looked like a different planet. Admiral Doyon Chang stood on the observation deck of the newly built orbital station. Watching ships move through space like busy insects, the sight still amazed him. Every day brought new vessels, new weapons, new hope. Admiral, the morning. Report, said Lieutenant Yun Bishin, handing him a data pad. She was young, maybe 25, but her eyes held the weight of someone much older. Everyone's eyes looked like that now. Chang read the numbers and whistled softly. 17,000 combat vessels completed. How is that even possible? Mars shipyards are working around the clock. 3 shifts, no breaks, except for mandatory rest periods. The asteroid mining operations are pulling in raw materials faster than we can process them. Through the massive viewport, Chang could see the proof. Where once there had been empty space, now there was a forest of metal and energy. Destroyers hung next to cruisers, their hulls gleaming with fresh armor plating. Fighter squadrons moved. In perfect formation, their pilots learning maneuvers that had never been tried before. What about the civilian population? Chang asked. It's volunteering faster than we can train them. Yesterday alone, we had 40,000 applications for ship construction work. The universities are graduating engineers in half the normal time. Chang nodded, but his expression remained serious. And the other colonies? Every human settlement has contributed. The Luna colony sent their entire mining fleet. The Europa Research Station donated all their scientists. Even the small farming communities in the outer system are sending food and supplies. A new voice joined the conversation. Admiral, you need to see this. Chang turned to find Dr. Yuna Choi approaching, her face bright with excitement. She carried a small device that hummed with energy. We finished the analysis of the Devourer fragments, she said. The ones from the Proxima attack. What did you find? Dr. Choi activated the device, and a holographic image appeared above her palm. It showed what looked like organic metal, twisted and strange. They're not purely mechanical. There's biological components mixed with technology we don't understand. But here's the important part. She zoomed in on a section of the image. See these stress fractures? They appear after the creature uses its energy weapons. The more they fire, the more damage they do to themselves. Chang studied the image carefully. You're saying they have limits? Everything has limits? You just need to find them and exploit them? Dr. Choi's smile was fierce. I think we can hurt them, Admiral. Really hurt them. The conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the station's communication system. All personnel, prepare for fleet inspection. Repeat, prepare for fleet inspection. Chang made his way to the command center, where dozens of officers worked at glowing displays. The main screen showed a view that would have been impossible just months ago. Thousands of human ships stretched across space, organized into battle groups that moved with deadly precision. Captain Jinwoo Nam, one of the fleet's youngest commanders, approached with a tablet. Admiral, the new weapon systems are ready for testing. The engineering teams have been working day and night. What kind of weapons? Kinetic torpedoes that can punch through 3 meters of hardened steel. Plasma cannons that draw power directly from the ship's reactor. And something Dr. Park's team calls fusion rams. Chang raised an eyebrow. Fusion rams? Ships designed to ram enemy vessels while detonating their own reactors. One-way trips, but they should take anything they hit with them. The idea was terrible and brilliant at the same time. Chang had seen the reports from other species' attempts to fight the Devourers. They had tried to fight a conventional war against an unconventional enemy. But humans were thinking differently. Sir, Lieutenant Shin called from her station, where, receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council, The main screen flickered, showing the familiar form of Council Prime Elder Thixon. The alien's tentacles moved in what Chang had learned was a gesture of deep concern. "Admiral Chang," the Elder began, "we have received reports about your military buildup. We urge you to reconsider this course of action. The Devourers have destroyed civilizations far more advanced than humanity." Chang stepped forward. "With respect, Elder, those civilizations tried to fight the Devourers using their own methods. We're trying something different. What you are attempting is suicide. These entities have consumed entire star systems. Your ships, no matter how many you build, cannot stand against such power." "Maybe not," Chang replied, "but we're going to. Try anyway." The Elder's form seemed to dim. "We have prepared evacuation ships for your population. There are worlds in the deep core where you might survive for a few more cycles. We appreciate the offer, but we're not running. Then you are choosing extinction." Chang looked around the command center at the faces of his officers. Each one showed the same expression, determination mixed with fear, but determination winning. "We're choosing to fight." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Outside, the great fleet continued its preparations, welding, torches sparking in the darkness, new ships taking their place in the formation. Dr. Choi appeared at Chang's shoulder. "Do you really think we can win?" Chang watched a squadron of fighters practice attack runs on a mock target. "I think we can make them bleed. If we can make them bleed, maybe we can make them die." The fleet grew larger every day, and with it, something no other species had possessed when facing the Devourers: the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began at dawn on Nexus Prime, the galaxy's political center. The great chamber, built to hold representatives from 1,000 worlds, now felt empty and cold. Only 300 species remained, and their numbers shrank with each passing day. Ambassador Gi-Wan Kim sat in the human section. Watching as the Corvellan delegation presented their final report, the crystalline beings moved slowly, their once bright forms now dim with grief. Their homeworld had fallen just 2 weeks ago. 3 billion souls, the Corvellan speaker said, his voice like breaking glass. Gone in 18 hours. Our planetary defenses lasted less than 1 hour against their assault. Elder Thixon, his tentacles writhed in distress. The ancient leader of the council looked older than his 800 years. How many refugee ships escaped? 47 vessels? Perhaps 200,000 survivors? The chamber filled with the soft sounds of alien mourning. Each species had their own way of expressing sorrow, creating a symphony of loss that echoed off the walls. "We must accelerate evacuation protocols," Elder Thixon announced. "All remaining Outer Rim colonies should be abandoned immediately. We cannot save the worlds, but we can save the people." Captain Sora Lee, sitting beside Ambassador Kim, leaned forward. "Elder, what about defensive preparations? Surely some worlds can be fortified." The Elder's large eyes focused on the human section. "Captain Lee, we have tried fortification. Zephyrians built orbital defense platforms around their core worlds. The Devourers consumed the platforms and used the metal to build more ships. But there must be something we can do besides." "Run," Sora insisted. "There is," said a new voice. "We can fight." The chamber fell silent as Admiral Chang's image appeared on the central display. Stood on the bridge of a warship, and behind him, other ships moved in formation. The sight was both impressive and heartbreaking to the assembled delegates. Admiral Chang, Elder Thixon said carefully, "We have discussed this. Military resistance has been attempted by every major civilization. The results are always the same." "The results are always the same because everyone fights the same way," Chang replied. "They build big ships, fire big guns, and hope for the best. We're doing something different." The Corvellan speaker stepped forward. "Young human, I watched my homeworld burn. I saw ships the size of cities reduced to vapor in seconds. What could you possibly do that we could not?" Chang's expression was calm but determined. "We're going to make them bleed." A ripple of shock ran through the chamber. The concept was almost blasphemous. The Devourers were a force of nature, like gravity or entropy. one did not make gravity bleed. "This is madness," whispered the Thraxian delegate, her multiple arms gesturing frantically. "You will only anger them." "Good," Chang said. "Angry enemies make mistakes, and we're very good at exploiting mistakes." Ambassador Kim stood up. "The Admiral's not speaking from empty hope. We have studied every attack, every encounter. We have found patterns, weaknesses." "It's impossible," Elder Thixon said. "The greatest minds in the galaxy have studied these entities for thousands of years. But they studied them as observers, not as soldiers," Chang replied. "They looked for understanding. We looked for ways to kill them." The main display shifted, showing technical diagrams that made several delegates gasp. Human ships, but unlike anything seen before. They were angular, brutal, designed for one purpose only. "These are not exploration vessels," Chang continued. "These are weapons. Every bolt, every wire, every system is built to destroy our enemy." "Many ships do you have?" asked the Vorthon representative, his voice barely above a whisper. 23,000 and growing. Every human colony, every station, every settlement has contributed. The number hit the chamber like a physical blow. Most species had never built more than a few thousand ships in their entire history. Humans had done it in less than a year. "It will not be enough," Elder Thixon said sadly. "I have watched entire fleets disappear in minutes." "Then we'll build more," Chang said simply. "We'll keep building until we have enough." Dr. Unichoi appeared beside Chang on the screen. "We have also developed new weapons. Kinetic penetrators, plasma charges, fusion warheads, things designed specifically to hurt devourers. You cannot know if they will work," the Corvellan speaker protested. "You're right," Chang agreed. "We won't know until we try. But we're going to try." The chamber erupted in discussions. Some delegates spoke of hope, others of certain doom. The humans sat quietly, watching their admiral field questions and criticisms with equal calm. Finally, Elder Thixon raised his primary appendage for silence. "Admiral Chang, the Council cannot support this action. Believe it will only hasten the end." "We're not asking for support," Chang replied. "We're informing you of our decision." "Then you are choosing to die." Chang's smile was cold as space. "We're choosing to fight. There's a difference." Transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Outside the great windows, refugee ships continued to arrive, carrying the survivors of dead worlds. But for the first time in months, some of those ships were not fleeing. They were turning around. The storm was gathering. And it was coming from the most unexpected place in the galaxy. Earth had spoken, and the universe was listening. Captain Jinwoo Nam felt his hands shake as he gripped the controls of the strike cruiser Thunderbolt. Through the viewport, he could see them coming. The Devourer fleet moved through space like a living nightmare, their ships pulsing with dark energy that seemed to eat the light around them. "All ships, this is Admiral Chang." The voice crackled over the communication system. "Remember what we trained for. We're not here to have a fair fight. We're here to end them." Jinwoo looked at his crew. Lieutenant Minji Kong at the weapons. Station, her young face set with determination. Engineer Tae Yono, barely out of the academy, checking his systems one last time. They were all so young, and they were about to face something that had destroyed civilizations older than their entire species. Sir Mingi reported, "Enemy ships are in range. Counting at least 50 vessels. 50 ships that have never lost a battle," muttered pilot Hyjin Park from her seat. "Then today's a good day to change that," Jinwoo replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. The Devourer's ships were beautiful in a terrible way. They looked like they had grown rather than been built, with smooth curves that twisted through space. Energy crackled along their hulls, and their weapons glowed with an inner fire that promised death. "This is Strike Group 7, came Captain Sunmi Park's voice over the radio. "We're moving to flank position. If this goes badly, tell my kids I love them." "It's not going badly," Admiral Chang's voice cut through the chatter. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Remember, when you're hurt, you don't retreat. You get angry." The first exchange of fire lit up the darkness. Devourer energy beams sliced through space, and where they touched human ships, metal simply disappeared. The destroyer Courage took a direct hit and vanished in a ball of expanding gas. But the human ships kept coming. "Target the lead ship," Jinwoo ordered. "Full power to forward guns." The Thunderbolt's main cannon fired, sending a stream of superheated plasma into the enemy formation. The beam struck a Devourer's ship and actually punched through its hull. Dark fluid leaked out like blood. "Did you see that?" Minji shouted. "We heard it. Across the battlefield, other human ships were scoring hits." The Devourers, ancient and terrible, seemed confused by enemies that didn't break and run after the first exchange. "Warning," Taeyeon called out. "Hull breach on deck 3. We're losing atmosphere." "Seal it," Ginwoo ordered. "Keep firing." The battle turned into chaos. Ships exploded and burned. But for every human vessel that died, 2 more took its place. They fought with a fury that seemed to surprise the Devourers. "This is Captain Park." Sunmi's voice came through the static. "My ship is finished. Reactors going critical. I'm taking one of them with me." Through the viewport, Jinwoo watched the UES Retribution accelerate directly toward the largest Devourer ship. The human vessel's engines glowed white-hot as it picked up speed, ramming speed. Sunmi's voice rang out one last time. The collision lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, both ships were gone, but the explosion had damaged 3 other Devourer vessels. "All ships," Admiral Chang's voice was calm despite the chaos. "You see what Captain Park just did? That's how we fight. That's how we win." More. Human ships began ramming attacks. The UES Hammer, its weapons destroyed, rammed a Devourer frigate. The fighter squadron led by Lieutenant Sumin Yu dove directly into the enemy formation, their ships exploding like fireworks. "They're retreating," Minji reported, her voice filled with wonder. "The Devourers are actually retreating." Ginwoo couldn't believe it. Through the smoke and debris, he could see the surviving Devourer ships pulling back, their formation broken. They moved like wounded animals, no longer the confident predators they had been. "This is Admiral Chang to all. Ships, pursue, but don't get reckless. We've proven they can bleed. Now we need to prove they can die." The human fleet gave chase, but the Devourers were already jumping to hyperspace. In minutes, they were gone, leaving only debris and the shocked silence of a galaxy that had just witnessed the impossible. "Status report," Jinwoo called out. 23 ships lost," Minji reported, "but we destroyed or damaged at least 15 enemy vessels." Sir Taeyeon added, "We're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Other species are asking how we did it." On the main screen, Admiral Chang's image appeared. The old man looked tired but triumphant. "Ladies and gentlemen, we just fought the Devourers and won. Not destroyed them, not yet. But we made them run." The cheers from the surviving ships filled the communication channels. For the first time in galactic history, the Devourers had been forced to retreat. "What now, Admiral?" Captain Nam asked. "Now we go home, repair our ships, and build more. Because that was just the beginning. The real war starts now." As the human fleet turned toward home, across the galaxy, species that had given up hope began to whisper a new word. Maybe. Maybe the humans were right. Maybe the Devourers could be stopped. The thunder had spoken in the void, and the universe was listening. The Devourer home construct hung in space like a twisted nightmare made real. Captain Minji Kong stared at it through the viewport of the dreadnought Thunderstrike, trying to understand what she was seeing. It wasn't just a ship or a station. It was pieces of 100 dead worlds welded together into something that hurt to look at. "How big is that thing?" asked Lieutenant Ji-Hoon Yoon from the weapons station. "Bigger than Earth's moon," replied Navigator Sun Woo Kim, his voice barely a whisper. "The sensors are having trouble mapping it all." Around them, the combined fleet stretched across space. Human ships formed the core, but they were joined by vessels from dozens of other species. The Corvellans had sent their remaining warships. The Thraxians contributed their fastest fighters. Even the peaceful Zephyrians had armed their medical ships. "All ships, this is Admiral Chang." The familiar voice filled the bridge. "You're looking at the heart of our enemy. Every world they've consumed, every life they've taken, It's all been to build this thing. Minji could see smaller devourer ships moving around the construct like insects defending their hive. There were thousands of them, more than the combined fleet had ever faced. "Sir," Communications Officer Nara Choi reported, "we're getting readings. From inside the construct, there are still people alive in there. Alive how?" Admiral Chang's voice came back. "Unknown. But the bioscanners are picking up millions of life signs. They're being used as some kind of power source." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The Devourers hadn't just killed their victims. They had kept them alive, feeding on them for who knew how long. "All ships." Chang's voice was harder now, filled with cold anger. "We're not just fighting for our own survival anymore. We're fighting for everyone they've taken." The battle began with a wave of Devourer fighters rushing toward the fleet. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons already charging. But the human response was immediate and overwhelming. "Fighter squadrons, engage," Mingi ordered. The space between the fleets erupted in fire. Human pilots, trained in the brutal tactics that had shocked the galaxy, threw themselves at the enemy with reckless courage. Lieutenant Taiano, leading Squadron 12, dove straight through the enemy formation, his guns blazing. "This is ode to all fighters." His voice crackled over the radio. "You want to dance? Let's dance." The main battle began when the construct's primary weapon fired. A beam of energy wider than a battleship lanced out, and the cruiser Defiant simply vanished. Destroyed, just gone, as if it had never existed. "Evasive maneuvers," Minji shouted. "All ships, scatter pattern 7. The fleet spread out, making it harder for the construct to target them, but the smaller Devourer ships were everywhere. They swarmed the human vessels like angry hornets, their energy weapons cutting through armor and hull. "This is the hammer." Captain Suminyu's voice came through the chaos. "We're taking heavy damage. I don't think we can last much longer." "Hold your position," Chang replied. "Help is coming," but help was being destroyed as fast as it arrived. The hospital ship, Mercy, converted to carry weapons, exploded in a ball of fire. The destroyer Thunder lost its engines and began spinning helplessly through space. Admiral Minji called out, "We're losing too many ships. At this rate, we won't have a fleet left." "Then we better finish this quickly," Chang replied. "Ships, prepare for final assault. We're going into that thing." The remaining fleet, now less than half its original size, accelerated toward the construct. The Devourer ships moved to intercept, but the humans had learned their lessons well. They didn't try to fight fair. "Ram them," came the cry from multiple ships. The destroyer Courage, its weapons destroyed, accelerated directly into a Devourer cruiser. The explosion cleared a path through the enemy formation. The fighter Wings of Freedom, piloted by barely trained volunteers, dove into the construct's weapons, their small ships exploding like fireworks. "This is Commander Yoon." Jahoon's voice was calm despite the chaos around them. "I'm reading a weak point in their main structure. If we can get a ship inside, we might be able to cause a chain reaction." "What kind of ship?" Chang asked. "Something big. Something with a lot of explosives." Minji looked around the bridge. They all knew what that meant. Someone had to fly directly into the heart of the construct and detonate their reactor. It would be suicide, but it might be the only way to win. "This is Admiral Chang to all ships." The old man's voice was steady. "I'm taking the flagship in. Cover my approach." "No, sir," Jihoon said quietly. "This is my plan. I'll take the Thunderstrike." Before anyone could argue, Jihoon had transferred command to his weapons station and was piloting the massive dreadnought directly toward the construct's core. The ship shuddered as enemy fire pounded its hull. "For Earth." Jihoon shouted as he pushed the engines to maximum power. The Thunderstrike, loaded with enough explosives to crack a planet, plunged into the construct's heart. The explosion that followed lit up 3 star systems and could be seen from 100 light years away. When the light faded, the construct was gone. The Devourer ships, suddenly, without their command center, stopped fighting and began drifting aimlessly through space. The war was over. the galaxy was safe. And the thunder that came from Earth had spoken its final word.